Hi friends, today we're talking about the bestest, most epicest, most coolest guys ever, the Space Marines. And even better, we're talking about the bestest, most epicest, most coolest Space Marines around, the Ultramarines. Now I say that as a joke, but I actually really do like the Ultramarines, and I think they're honestly a bit overhated. Oh, Crackduck likes the Ultramarines. He's so basic. Boo. Yeah, obviously. I like Cadians, what'd you expect? But Roman themed Space Marines who have the capacity to critically think, that's a cool chapter. And a lot like the Cadians, I feel like the Ultramarines are actually really cool, but they get clowned on since they're the poster boys and, well, let's be honest, they're better at their job than everyone else. But enough of that preamble. Let's get into the lore of the 13th Legion, the Scions of Guilliman, the Ultramarines. But also, before we get into that, let's run through some of the tired old jokes and never mention them again in this video. Ha ha, Ultramarines, more like ultra boring. These guys are like Smurfs because they're blue. Ha ha, astute observation. Your chapter symbol is a toilet seat, perhaps in reference to how you get shit on so much. Ha. Need more lieutenants, the range is looking barren, and of course, Robo Gorilla Man, Robot Girly Man, Robert Guile from Street Fighter Man, Robooty Gawk Gawk Man, and Ruby Gilman, Teenage Kraken. Now that that's out of the way, let's properly get into the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines are the 13th Legion of the first founding and were known as the Warborn before meeting their Ultra Dad Guilliman. This is because they're made up of people of the warring factions of the Caucasus Waste on Earth. Wait, Warborn, Wastelands, and Blue. It kind of reminds me of a certain state whose motto is Battleborn, most known for its wasteland city, and has a suspiciously blue flag. Holy shit, they're Nevada Marines! Upon reuniting with Gilliman, the Warborn became the Ultramarines and were relocated to Macragge. Gilliman highly respects his sons and taught his legion to treat him like a commander and role model rather than a divine king. As such, Gilliman is open to talking to his sons, discussing strategies, and Gilliman has even been, and I quote, known to make the occasional jest. Because, you know, Gilliman's sometimes a bit of a silly man. But silly man aside, during the Great Crusade, Gilliman and his Ultramarines were literally one of the best legions, if not the best legion. They were only second to Horus's Luna Wolves in terms of worlds conquered. However, where I'd argue that the Ultramarines might edge out the Luna Wolves is how they left the world. Although they conquered less worlds, Gilliman would make sure to establish an efficient government, proper defenses, and he would leave advisors to help the new Imperial worlds. This meant that the worlds he conquered were most likely going to stay conquered, and they would be primed to defend themselves even without the Marine legions. At their peak, the Ultramarines were the largest legion, having about 250,000 Marines. They had so many Marines, in fact, that Gilliman had to establish a chapter system as companies were becoming too small organization-wise. These chapters are, of course, the progenitor of the modern-day chapters of 40k. And once Horus went all traitor and stuff, the Ultramarines were a force to be reckoned with. Being such a large legion known for their tactical prowess made them a pressing threat to the traitor legions. Furthermore, it was actually an Ultramarine Sergeant, Aenid Thiel, who first theorized and developed strategies to effectively combat Space Marines. And for this, he was initially reprimanded and punished for even considering killing his brothers, and his helmet was painted red as a mark of shame, since being a redhead is the worst punishment imaginable. However, the tactics he theorized on proved invaluable when half the legions went traitor and almost no one knew how to properly fight Space Marines. After the devastating Battle of Kolth, Thiel was honored and the red helmet of shame became a marker of the sergeant rank. So then, after almost 30,000 years, redheads were finally accepted by society, which is a bit long if you ask me, but, you know, the world of 40k was created by a British company after all. But after a bit of banter and scrapping, towards the end of the heresy, Gilliman established Imperium Secundus in Macragge after assuming the Emperor was dead and that the Imperium was lost. But then he learned it was not all lost, and he rushed to Holy Terra, wrecking chaos ass along the way. Unfortunately, the Ultramarines were not able to return in time due to warp nonsense. However, the Ultramarines were still a crucial part of the Siege of Terra as they forced Horus to rush his siege plan since he feared getting hit from behind from his big blue brother. Before going further, I would like to talk about the sponsor of today's video, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and the best part, it's completely free on PC and consoles. Now, I'm a hardcore 40k fan, but I'm also a casual enjoyer of history, so it's awesome to play as there are over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major nations. They have a large range of vehicles, including things from the 20s to the modern age, and it's incredible to see the super detailed vehicle models. That, alongside the realistic graphics and authentic authentic sounds really help immerse you into the battle. I personally really like the unique X-ray playback feature, as it kind of feels like Mortal Kombat for vehicles. So join the worldwide community of over 70 million players in epic PvP battles and experience a huge amount of content in this awesome free game. There is no better game for military history fans. Be sure to click the link in my description and you can get epic bonuses like premium vehicles, XP boost, 7-day premium account, and more. Thank you War Thunder for sponsoring this video. But yeah, after the siege, the Ultramarines were the strongest loyalist legion since most of the other ones took much heavier losses in the war. Therefore, they led the loyalist forces in the Great Scouring, where they hunted down the traitors and rebuilt the Imperium. In this time, Guilliman was appointed as the Lord Commander of the Imperium, and he reorganized Imperial leadership. Along with all this, Guilliman created the Codex Astartes as a guide for Space Marine tactics and organization, and of course, to sell to people every few years. Part of this was breaking the legions into smaller chapters so that no one Marine force would be strong enough to threaten the Imperium. Unfortunately, this change caused some issues with his brothers, but they eventually complied since they feared another conflict so soon after the heresy. However, Guilliman's rule went on a 10,000-year-long hiatus when he was nearly killed by Demon Fulgrim on Thalassarea and put into stasis. But this video isn't about Guilliman, he'll get his own eventually, so back to his Ultra Sons. Even without their Primarch, the Ultramarines were a very powerful and prolific chapter, participating in many major box set conflicts, including various Tyrannic Wars and the Assault on Black Reach. They also fought in the War of the Beast, the Damocles Crusade, the Iron Cage, and the Fall Acadia. Then, after their Ultra Daddy's return, the Ultramarines were key combatants in the Indominus Crusade and Plague Wars. Outside of their battles, the Ultramarines are notable for having a very stable gene seed. And even better, although the gene seed is very stable, it still allows a diverse range of personalities and aptitudes for the Marines given the gene seed. This made them the perfect jack-of-all-trades Space Marines, as they're highly adaptable and covered nearly every base. But it also meant that they're inherently more moderate than other chapters, and they couldn't really specialize as well as something like the Space Wolves with their melee and feral aggression, or something like the Raven Guard in their stealth. But that's okay, because they're the Ultramarines, baby! They specialize in being the best! Another benefit of the stable gene seed is that it didn't decay much, even over 10,000 years, so the Ultramarines have a ton of successors, especially since they started out with the most successors in the Heresy. Moreover, the Ultramarines usually keep closer contact with the successors than most other founding chapters do, many of their successors sending representatives to meet with the Lord of McCrag in order to discuss war plans across the galaxy. As for gene seed flaws, the Ultramarines have a terrible one. Their gene seed is said to make them slightly more aggressive than usual and have a quote-unquote tendency towards cohesion and adaptation of hierarchy. Oh no, my soldiers of war are aggressive and they like to work cohesively. Oh, what am I ever gonna do? Why couldn't I have what Russ is having? Now this gene flaw is kind of a cop-out, but it can manifest in some weaknesses, even if more minor than other chapters. For example, Ultramarines may struggle to work independently, unless you're a video game character, and the adaptation of hierarchy thing to me seems to be tied to their culture in which they constantly strive to rise up in ranks, potentially undermining their own leaders. So basically, they have the weaknesses of Anakin Skywalker, being too ambitious and good at everything, but unable to gain the rank of Master. Plus, they both like blue. But the Ultramarines' real flaw is their strict adherence to the Codex Astartes and their existing tactics, making them quite predictable. This flaw being especially prominent in 40k, as during the Heresy, the Ultramarines were somewhat predictable, but they're also notably adaptive and able to rapidly change their strategies to counter their foes. They even adopted some strategies of particularly competent enemies. However, in the current setting, many Ultramarines view Guilliman's Codex as a holy doctrine and try not to stray too far from its teachings. This can lead to many issues, as the Codex was inherently created as a guideline, not a strict law. No matter how comprehensive and tactically adept Guilliman was, he knew he could never cover every single battlefield scenario, and the Codex reflects that. Like, our codexes are outdated in like a week or so you could just imagine how much of an issue it would be over 10,000 years, especially with the emergence of new threats like Tau and Tyranids. Also, following the Codex Astartes to a T can lead you to becoming one of the most hated, if not the most hated characters in the setting. But despite their adherence to their tried and true strategies, they're still highly adaptable and capable of learning from their failures and readjusting to the enemy, even in the modern setting. Think of it like the guy who does the same exact chest opener every single game, but he's able to adapt from there and he almost always comes out on top in the end game. Yeah, sure, they're predictable at first, and this can lead to an early advantage for the enemies, but over the long run, the Ultramarines are able to learn from their foes and come out on top. This makes them nearly unstoppable in long, drawn-out wars. During the Heresy, Emo Chad Korax even said that Guilliman's armies were far too adaptable to be able to defeat in war. Another strength the Ultramarines have is from their culture. A super cool thing that the Ultramarines do in battle is considering the practicals and the theoreticals of whatever situation they face. They consider the practical outcomes of whatever theoretical decision they may make near instantaneously and instinctually. This helps them be very tactically flexible. So, the Ultramarines have a reliable backbone to their tactics, but are also able to rapidly adapt to the unpredictable nature of war on the fly. Or, in nerd-ass Dawn of War terms, they have solid, tried-and-true macros and very flexible and adaptable micros, making them truly one of the greatest chapters. Or, at least that's what Guilliman intended for. This kind of approach to battle was somewhat lost over the years as the Codex became more and more sacred. However, with Guilliman's return, he has been reintroducing this approach to his sons, and the Codex is once again being treated more like a guideline, so suck on an egg, lame Andros! Other than that, the Ultramarines also have a really cool, loose, ancient Roman theme. Their gladiuses, helmet plumes, names, and tactical efficiency all add to the theming. Along with warfare, when most people think of ancient Rome, they think of politics, and of course, the Ultramarines have that by the ultra sackful. Also, much like how TikTok tells me every man thinks of ancient Rome at least once a day, GW also thinks about Ultramarines at least once a day. And finally, another thing I find super cool about the Ultramarines, since I'm a lame-o loser who likes nice characters, is that the Ultramarines are one of the nicer chapters to regular humans. Similar to the Salamanders, Ultramarines find human life sacred and important to protect. While not as doggedly protective over the common folk as the Salamanders, Ultramarines still value ordinary people and will work with them to establish functional Imperial worlds. They also really hate corruption. They try to stamp it out on the all-too-common corrupt, bureaucratic Imperial worlds. And this is most apparent when Guilliman woke up and probably almost had an ultra heart attack that would send him right back into stasis upon seeing the state of the modern Imperium. But yeah, the Ultramarines are really cool. Sure, they're canonically a bit elitist, and yeah, they're a bit bland at times, and of course, there's the Matt Ward stuff. But at the end of the day, the Ultramarines have a lot going for them. The Roman flavoring is super cool. They have some kick-ass bespoke models. Robude Guilliman is one of the most interesting characters in the modern setting, and they always win, of course, and what can I say? I like winners. Plus, in a practical sense, the Ultramarines are probably the most useful chapter there is. And before you ultra kill me for ultra glazing, hear me out. Having an army that can adapt to nearly any situation when you have a galaxy-spanning empire with like a million different things that want to kill you is just as, if not more valuable than having ultra specialized chapters. The Ultramarines are truly ultra cool. So, I hope you enjoyed this ultra episode, and if you're an ultra hater of the Ultramarines, well, you probably only watched the first few seconds and left a "fuck Ultramarines" comment and then left. But if you're a true hater and stayed, I hope this showed you some cooler part of the Ultramarines. And if not, I hope it was a good hate fodder for you. Otherwise, let me know what you think of the Ultramarines in the comments below. Are they overhated, not hated enough, too boring to be hated? Whatever it is, let me know what you think. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Remember to click my link in the video description or pinned comment below to storm the battlefield in this awesome free game on Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, and earn epic bonuses like free premium vehicles, XP boosts, and more. And thank you for watching. Thank you to the Patrons who help support the channel more. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your ultra besties. Thanks. My God, how can you not look at this and think this is some of the coolest shit ever? And this, the blue and the white, they look so nice. And look at this, all the ultramarine colorways look ultra nice.